Hey man, it's time to get into the NFC South. Burning questions for the NFC South. Are you ready?
I am prepared.
Yeah. Well, let's see. Oh, I guess we'll find out if I am. I'm your host, Michael, and this is We Are the Game. We're going to get into our biggest questions for the NFC South teams today. We're going to get started with the Panthers here in just a second. Just make sure everything's clear. We're going to do our two biggest questions for them. It might look more like a big question and one that we think may have snuck under the radar. But it's going to be two things that we really think of when we think of all these teams. So, yeah, have some fun, and then here we go. Go ahead and get started with them Panthers whenever you're ready.
Well, the Panthers have a lot of stories that you could pick out of, but I think there's one obvious one, which is, what should we take away from Bryce Young's first year, and where is he coming into the second year, and how comfortable are they in the community in buying into him? And so, yeah, thank you. And this might answer that question right here. Everyone seems to be buying into him just fine, including one of my favorite places, Bojangles. So he seems like he's ready to go. So what all have they added to help him out this season? Teteroa McMillan, I think, is the big piece, the singular piece to look at and kind of be the shiny object. I can't wait to see what he does. I like the Adam Thielen and Leggett kind of combination going on there. But I think the real story and what holds his offense together has been, and I expect will continue to be, Chuba Hubbard. I think he is the thing that makes everything run when it is running. No pun intended. But then also, I think they were brilliant to also grab Rico Dowdle. Was sad to see him depart my Cowboys, but there it is. So, yeah, very excited to see what they do. I'm also intrigued to see what Tommy Tremble does at tight end, how they utilize him, and how that works. Also, can this offensive line keep him protected to allow him to continue his growth going forward? But I think, as he goes, the team goes. Chuba Hubbard's, I think, a good running back, but he cannot do it without a functional passing game to complement that. What do you see on this? Do you agree that this is the big thing here down in Carolina?
Yeah, I mean, it really is. I mean, technically, the question, along with yours, is, can they get more consistent on offense? Do they have the right weapons for him? Because when he was able to, stand in the pocket and pick people apart and run at will rather than run for his life, they had some production last year. But I think the even more important thing to note here is that he's not a big man. And that big bow box he's holding is actually just the size of one of those like Panda Express extra entree boxes. It's just looks big because he's holding it. I have to get Kyler Murray jokes about him being tiny all the time, and I have an arsenal. And so
I bet that's
going to feed him back just out of just hurt. I'm just going to start spewing now. But yeah, no, I do think that is it's the big question. We're getting close to those kind of sort of make or break years for young quarterbacks where it's about time for him to get this is the year you get paid because of or not.
Yeah.
And so we're getting closer to that, and we'll see what he does here. Now, I mean, he's obviously getting paid from Bojangles, but other than that, will he get paid by the Panthers? We'll see.
Yeah, and in that sense, I'm rooting for him. But and going to your point about having plenty of jokes built in from the hurt you've already experienced from your team, I also have plenty of hurt that I've channeled into the subplot. I don't think it's that far off, honestly, from being the main story, which is the Panthers defense, which I have summed up in this. This is how I also felt similar-ish to how Dallas's defense against running backs in our division, namely Saquon Barkley, kind of looked. But yeah, I think right now every running back feels like Bowser here coming through. So the question is going to be, they gave up 530-ish points last season. The run defense in particular was suspect. And you wonder when you let go of players how much impact they're going to have for the team you're letting go for, but also to your own team. And that whole Burns and Luvu thing from a while back, I think we've seen that it had quite an impact. And I think some of that's understood and somewhat expected. You've got to try to develop that. Replacements for that. It takes time. But I think they were also third in sacks, but 130 rushing yards a game is unsustainable. It's hard to keep up with that. They let go of one of my kind of now I don't want to say favorite players, but guys I keep an eye on, which was Jadeveon Clowney, who I think had an impact for them. But they did go out in the draft and pick up a couple of new ends that I think will be exciting to see what they can bring this year. And then really the year after that is when I'd really expect them to kick in. Big Nick Scoutin out of A&M and Princely Umamielen, whose name I will probably butcher, but I tried. There it is. Out of Ole Miss. So they're robbing out the SEC of all the defensive ends. So I'll be very interested to see, can they just make steps in the right direction. I would not anticipate that they're going to resolve all of this and become a top 5-10 defense, but they're really not that far removed from having been a pretty decent defense. So can they find a new way to get after the quarterbacks and give the secondary some relief? What do you think about the Panthers defense and their chances of rebuilding, stepping forward this season?
I mean, it's a lot of the right moves on paper. We'll see if they actually work out. You know, you never know about some of these drafted guys. Same for every team, but I'm oftentimes somewhat encouraged by teams at the bottom because it's, again, as we've said before, it's hard to be the worst or the best 2 years in a row. And they weren't the technical worst at sacks or at run defense. Oh, I think they might have been the worst at run defense. Were they? I forgot now.
I think
they had a lot.
It depends on how you look at
it.
Yeah.
They were down at the bottom. And so it's you're almost due to get better just through good luck almost. And so they've gone out and they did some of the moves that they need to do to get better on paper, and let's see if it works. So I'm hoping they don't do that until at least week 3, because I think we play them in week 2, and I'd love for James Conner to have a nice day. So
get off to a good start.
Yeah, it's a little Bowsering for him would be good. So yes. All right. Remind me what I had first. Give me the next slide, please.
Yeah. I think we're heading to Tampa Bay next.
Tampa, yes. All right. So Tampa Bay Buccaneers. I enjoyed watching them so much last year, but they kept on shooting themselves in the foot a bit too many times. Baker had Josh Allen kind of production, Lamar Jackson, Joe Burrow kind of production. Unfortunately, he had like 16 interceptions. So things were just a bit messy. Not like Jameis Winston messy, but like just a bit more messy. And if they could clean things up a bit there, I really do like what that offense could be. It's worth noting they were missing a lot of their key guys. I think Godwin and Evans both missed a substantial amount of time last year. So if they can stay relatively healthy, they also added Emeka Egbuka out of Ohio State. They've just solidified, like they've built strength on strength kind of a thing as far as personnel goes on their offense. So Bucky Irving can take a bit of that load off if he wants to have a nice year too, and I imagine that he does. So I do think that they have plenty of promise on offense, in particular, if they can just continue to work out the little kinks. You know, that system, I believe, is still somewhat inherited from when Bruce Arians was there, and it's one that's notorious for taking chances, the whole no risk it, no biscuit approach and all that. So I think there's still some of that, and so he's falling prey to some of the risk it negatives. But if they clean things up a bit, like he's we talked about it when we talked about quarterbacks. I think he has MVP possibilities. If he can have the right production with just a little, he's so much closer than a lot of other quarterbacks as far as where he is right now and the weaponry around him. He's got a good O-line. So it's mostly there, but we'll see. What did you think of Tampa last year and going into this year?
No, I mean, it's funny. I think they're easy to overlook how good they can be. You know, they win in that division. That division has some teams that did not have very strong years. And so I think, again, it's like, well, Tampa's going to win the division. They've got some things figured out. And you miss the like, well, yeah, but they're also going to throw for 40 touchdowns. You know, how productive, how good is Bucky Irving and his backup both? I think they put up a ton of yards. And then now all of a sudden we finally got Baker to this point where he's always been a Brett Favre-esque kind of guy and like, well, just throw it. Like, let's just get the ball. But he's now 30, and he's also got some wisdom. He knows when to do that and when not to. And last year, I think, was a real challenge, like you were pointing out, with Chris Godwin being out as much as he was. And he very much just kind of went to the next guy. And it doesn't hurt to have Mike Evans out there at 300 feet tall in the end zone. But still, yeah, well, when he's on the field. But yeah, I think that they're going to be pretty amazing to watch this year. And yeah, I would agree. He's been great. He has been great.
Super fun guy to watch. I'm happy that he's had this this renaissance, and I'm also happy it wasn't on Seattle or the Rams or the Niners.
Same.
So that has been nice. But their success on offense and the question marks there, I don't know. Their second question I have is about them, but it's almost about the entire division. They've got kind of a rough division, and it rough in the sense of not great, not rough in the sense of like the AFC North or something like that. Like for a couple of years now, they've been primarily the only actual good team. And so is this the year that they get challenged? That they really that Atlanta steps up with Michael Penix Jr., or if what we were talking about with Carolina a minute ago happens and they start, what if Carolina challenges for 8-9 wins this year? And then, oh man, they're looking at possibly stealing the NFC South. I mean, as great as that offense was last year, they only had, I think, 11 wins now that I'm thinking about it. My gosh, my brain's just shut off. But yeah, I think, so it's not like they've separated themselves so much that they're unapproachable. It's just the other teams really haven't stepped up all that much, and they're going through their own problems. The Kirk Cousins catastrophe. There's a lot of C's there. And is this the year that they finally get caught? So what, have they done enough stuff? Have they added enough pieces to keep that from happening? I'm really not sure. That'll be one of the things to keep an eye on. It's just one of those, I think Houston Texans are kind of in the same position oftentimes where, yeah, they're a good team, but it's not like they're, 13-4 every year. So, so that's my thing here. And I'm not really necessarily asking about all the other teams so much as do people have any concern that they haven't done enough to maintain that separation from the rest of their division? So I don't know. With that broad, like kind of badly formed question in mind, what do you think of this idea with them?
Well, yeah, their defense is better than, again, overlooked. And their defense has been good. I don't know that they have been, I don't think that there's any reason to think that they're going to be significantly worse on defense. So I also feel like with Buka, they've kind of hedged their bets on their wide receiver core, right? So that, hey, if we have some people out for a little bit, we've got some more weapons right here coming right in behind them. I think that they've done a good job of trying to keep themselves well positioned. It is going to be interesting with Godwin and Mike Evans to see how healthy they can stay as they go forward. Mike Evans has been, I think, pretty healthy overall. He's a big guy. I think that helps a lot. But yeah, and I do think that he's the one in particular, as much as Godwin is a real factor on the field. I think Evans is such an easy target in the end zone that, as long as you've got him healthy, you've got some version that works. So yeah, I expect that they'll still run that division for a little while. But yeah, I think the other teams, going to your point, have made steps in the right direction, but I do think that they will stay on the top. So,
well, very good. Yeah, they're going to be fun every year. They just are, at least for a while. So, all right, give me your next one, man. Give me that. Who are we at?
New Orleans, heading to the Saints.
Excellent.
So the best way of talking about the Saints is that they are going to introduce, it would appear, this young man to the NFL world in Tyler Shough. And he is very intriguing, right? Like, he's intriguing, but he's a real unknown. Like, at the NFL level, we don't have anything to really go off of. You've got a few. Here's what people are saying out of camp, which from what I can tell is mostly just that he's probably going to be the starter. He has some things going for him on that team. Chris Olave, Raheed Shaheed, and Brandon Cooks, who's not my favorite wide receiver option, having seen him with the Cowboys. But still, that's not a bad grouping to walk in on. Alvin Kamara showed that he still got some miles on the tires there. And then Juwan Johnson, but Foster Moreau last year, I got to watch a couple of the games where he was making plays, and he's got tight end options there with those two that I think he's got to go to as well, which, me, I love tight ends. So I think that they'll be a real factor there. They also tried to shore up their offensive line with Kelvin Banks. So I think that they've done a lot to position him well. But at the same time, this team really, really struggled last year to put any points up at all. So I think that's going to be the question: is can they give him opportunities to learn and evolve? But I don't necessarily see them like getting out of the basement in this division based off of him. Now, again, he could walk in and be the next Patrick Mahomes for all we know. Like, we didn't necessarily see him coming, and neither did anybody else, I'm pretty sure. So he could be. But I think he's going to have a year of learning, and I think that they've done what they can to set him up to have a good solid season. What do you think about him?
Yeah, I mean, he was not a guy that got featured heavily, I felt like, in the games that I watched in college. But I went back and I watched some of his stuff, and he's exciting to watch, man. He will sling it. So he will be fun to watch. I think he puts the Saints in a good position in certain ways. Like, they're not in a good position overall. Like, are they going to challenge for a Super Bowl this year? I have serious doubts.
Not sure the division, but
anything. So that being said, if there's something there, then okay, great. Maybe they just cultivate that. They're probably still going to have a pretty high pick next year, though. So there's going to be a big decision to make. So they keep projecting next year's draft like it's going to be something like not this last year. It's not the 25 draft, but the 24 draft, where it was very quarterback rich and a lot of great prospects. Maybe Arch Manning, if he decides to try to come out, and Grandpa played for the Saints, I believe, and so there's some fun storylines to have there. But they're going to have a big decision to make, and so he's going to get his shot, and they should give him a bit of rope, because what have they got to lose at this point? But yeah, he will be a lot of fun, at least at times. I think there are going to be some, oh man, why'd you do that kind of moments. But at the same time, like, it's going to be a lot of fun to see this young kid just out there just going for it. So they usually have like you said, they usually have a solid group of playmakers on offense. So we'll see. And they never have a terrible offensive line, I feel like. So they're usually protecting their guys. Yeah. I as much as I'm not expecting them to make the playoffs, and so I won't be watching them as much in like the standings and seeing what they're doing there. The intrigue with any team with a new quarterback is just undeniable. So yeah, they'll be fun.
Yeah. Well, and I think one of the things that they've done to put him in a position to succeed is introducing Clint Kubiak, who is the son of Gary Kubiak. So he's got pedigree, I guess, if that matters. But he was the offensive coordinator for Minnesota with Kirk Cousins back a few years, the OC in Denver. And then most recently, he's been out with Kyle Shanahan as the passing coordinator with the 49ers. So he's been around. He's seen a lot of different systems and worked in a lot of different things, worked with Brock Purdy, a bunch over there. And so, it's exciting to think about him coming in and how he runs like play action. He does like to focus on tight ends. And like I said, Juwan Johnson's fun, but Foster Moreau, he really got open in the end zone a lot. And I was already excited to see what he becomes. But now with Kubiak, I'm very intrigued to see how they utilize those guys. Granted, he's used to having George Kittle, which is a whole different thing, but and McCaffrey. But I almost feel like the way he's run his offense there is probably pretty conducive to what Alvin Kamara still has left as well. It's not just run him up the middle over and over. It's lots of different looks, lots of different types of uses. I think this is probably not just a good thing for Tyler, but it's probably also a really good thing for Alvin Kamara as well. I think he's had some good success with quarterbacks in general, but with young quarterbacks as well. So I'll be interested to see what Tyler can take away from that and work within it. And I'll be interested to see how he runs things kind of going forward. What do you think? Do you think he'll make a difference there?
Oh, of course he'll make a difference, especially the combination of him and Kellen Moore together. Like, it's going to be different. Will all that difference be positive? Meh. It's going to be hard to compare to last week's first 2 weeks. If they put up 90 points, first of all, I'm going to cry because, again, they play the Cardinals in the first week. But if they put up 45 points on average for the first 2 weeks again this year, it's going to be astonishing.
Sure.
But again, to go back to your first question, it's going to be a lot about how they work with Tyler Shough or whoever they end up having at quarterback at whatever point in the season.
Right. A good point.
But yeah, I mean, I like what they're coming from. A combination of things that, like, you've got Kellen Moore's stuff from with the Eagles. You've got all the teams you listed here. Their offenses, the Niners, the Vikings, and such. I think those offenses make sense for the weaponry that they have. So they could get something out of it. And I think it makes everyone always says the Shanahan offense, I believe, is good for young quarterbacks as well. So if he's got pieces of that in there, and he should, then it should be effective at that, or give him a chance to show what he's got. Tyler Shough, that is. So yeah, it should be good. I mean, I wonder how often, I was thinking about this while you were talking. I was like, I wonder how often the son of a great coach ends up being a good coach. Like, I wonder what the percentage is of that. I have
that
no
would be
idea.
Fascinating to look at.
Yeah, but
I do not know. Yeah,
but we'll see. I guess we'll see. So
we'll find out.
Yep.
Well, why don't you wrap it up and tell us how Atlanta is going to compete in this division, and what they are going to be looking like?
Well, their huge question is, it's Michael Penix Jr. Were they right to move off of Kirk Cousins? Were they right to draft this guy right after signing to Kirk Cousins to that big deal? And that's the big question, because if he has a good year, it doesn't matter. That move that seemed so goofy at the time is gonna, like, no one's gonna care. So if Michael Penix Jr. turns into Bo Nix kind of level of production, that kind of thing, it's all water under the bridge, and no one's gonna care.
Yeah.
So that's the big question here. We've got such a small sample size of him playing from last year that I don't even want to try to judge off of what I saw. He moved with some confidence and things like that, from what I saw. But I want him to get a real offseason, which he's getting now and mostly has gotten now, and then really look at him for the first 4 or 5 games this year before I even try to come to any conclusions on Michael Penix Jr. But to his credit, or to his advantage, he's got a good roster around him. He's got a borderline top 10 of just about everything. He's got a really good tight end. I know that Kyle Pitts gets a lot of grief, but he's a good receiving tight end at the very least. Drake London, no one talks about, because they really hadn't had a great, they really hadn't had a good quarterback in a minute. And Bijan Robinson. So he's got a really good toolkit around him, and they always have a solid offensive line. Again, kind of like some other teams we talked about. They're never worst. So he's going to get his chance, and I'm excited to see what he does. This entire division, as much as there's not a whole lot, it's not like the NFC North, where it's a 15-win team and a 14-win team. All the teams have some fun intrigue that goes along with them, and I'm interested to see it. Not to mention, we don't have enough southpaw quarterbacks, and I'm glad we have another one. So,
amen.
What do you do?
Amen to that.
What do you think of what you've seen from Penix so far?
I mean, he's exciting, right? He's intriguing. He's exciting. In Atlanta had some divisional success, right? They won both their games against Tampa Bay, which is, I mean, that's the mountain you've got to climb in this division, right? So they won both their games, but both of those were with Kirk Cousins. Yeah. So, can you walk into that defense? And it's a lot of pressure, because the defense is good, but also the offense is good, which means you've got to be productive every opportunity that you get the ball. I'll be interested to see how much he's matured. He really hasn't seen tons of playing time, but I think that the little bit that they've seen will give them tools and ways to maneuver how they should run their offense a little bit differently for him versus for Cousins. But I think that one thing that Cousins wasn't when he was young is maneuverable, and he isn't young now. I think that Penix is, I think as a linebacker coming in, or somebody who's broken through the line, Kirk Cousins is a guaranteed sack. Yes. Michael Penix is slippery enough to make you think twice and work for it. So yeah, I'm intrigued. I'm excited. Like you said, he's got the right tools. He's got an enviable set of tools. I think anyone coming in would love to have those. Yeah. But yeah, I see him taking a step. How big a step? I can't. That one's going to be hard only he, I guess, will be able to answer that one.
Yeah, but he'll get a shot, and it'll be good.
Yep.
Let's see. Last question about the Falcons is more. I mean, just to switch sides of the ball, it's about their defense. It got talked about just a plenty last year that they couldn't really get pressure. They were one of the only teams that had like a pressure EPA rate or whatever it is, getting after the quarterback anywhere near my Cardinals. Like it was us and them, and then everyone else was at least decent, it seemed like, or at least that's the way it got put out there. That's never completely accurate, but they really struggled to get after the quarterback. So they drafted this guy, Jalen Walker, and another guy, I've forgotten his name, but they drafted a bunch of guys to try to James Pierce Jr. That's who it was. It's just deep random memories. And so they drafted a bunch of guys. They added some guys in free agents, who was it? I've got it here. Leonard Floyd, Devon Diablo, who has got the scariest name in football. Mike Hughes to help with their secondary and things like that. Like they've really, I applaud teams and players who, your breakdown of last year was like, hey, this is where you were bad, was right here, here, and here. And they go out and very specifically target those things. They don't just like, meh, it'll happen if it happens. So they've done the right things to try to make their defense better. So I do think that they will be better this year. But when it's a lot of young faces like Jalen Walker and James Pierce Jr., and James Pierce Jr. in particular was the kind of guy I'm like, I feel like he's going to need a year to really catch his feet. Prove me wrong, James. Just go do it. But that they might be more of a 26 is their year more than a 2025 is their year. But I could see them taking a step this year and just being better, particularly at the end of the season. But yeah, again, it's another aspect of their game that'll warrant some looking into and like just keeping an eye on through the season. So, do you think they did enough on defense to gain some relevance and maybe gain a little ground on Tampa?
Yeah, I mean, I think to your point there is like I think they did the right pieces. How long are those pieces going to take to be mature enough to make the impact that they need? That's going to be the real question. Yeah. But it's not just a question of, can you also, score more points, which I think that they will do this year. I think they'll put more points on the board more consistently, but also, on the defensive side, can you control that as well? So I think that they've done the right things. I would love to see them change their, overall point differential between offense and defense positively. I think they're about 30 points off last year, more points given up than they scored. They're going to want to be on the positive side of that. I doubt it'll be 50 points, but let's call it 10, 20. I think that would be a huge step in the right direction. And also if that defense can hold on to teams like they kind of did last year, like Tampa Bay, and give them an opportunity to stay in those games and win them, they may have done enough to at least get them to the top of their own division. So I'll be interested to see in particular this young man and how he comes into the league and what he brings, because defensive players are funny. One will come in and they'll be very good. I mentioned Jadeveon Clowney earlier. I think when I saw him come in, I thought he was going to lead the league in sacks, and that just isn't his game. But he was a huge run guy. Yeah. And similarly here, I wonder how these guys will play out and how they will get used within that defense to provide value in that division.
Yeah, and it's tough to find like the team that's really going to like challenge. They seem like the obvious choice. Are they going to be the team that challenges Tampa and jumps up there? But we'll see. I think they've done enough to give themselves a shot at that goal. But time will tell, and it'll tell fairly soon. So
we're getting close.
Thank goodness we are finally getting close. So that all being said, that's going to wrap this up. Next week, we're going to get into the West, the NFC West, that is, and I'm certainly looking forward to that. Finally. It's going to be a 3-hour video just for one section. Just kidding. Don't worry. So that'll be a lot of fun. We are trying to get to 100 subscribers by the start of the 2025 NFL season, and we've gotten closer and closer as we go along. We really appreciate everyone who's clicked and watched again and subscribed and all those fun things, and we really appreciate you. So if you wouldn't mind, anyone who's new, join us again sometime. We really appreciate it. Go enjoy some Bojangles and think of Bryce Young, and then have a fantastic